I hate her for slapping my niece after she told my son that he is adopted. I never thought a moment of pride could turn into a family feud. But that's exactly what happened that day. It all started with Gabriel. My son, my beautiful boy, had just been chosen to represent his school at a youth press conference. It was a big deal. A milestone I had dreamed about when I first held him in my arms as a newborn. I had longed for a child for years. And after I found out I couldn't have one of my own, adoption had been my only path to motherhood. When Gabriel came into my life, it felt like all the dreams I had once let go of were suddenly possible again. We'd decided to tell him when he was older, to explain his adoption when he could understand it. It was a decision we'd wrestled with, but it felt like the right one. He was only 8, after all, and we didn't want him to feel different or unimportant. But sometimes secrets have a way of eating at you, especially when they're not yours to keep. At the family reunion, we were thrilled to share the news about Gabriel. My husband and I were practically beaming as we told everyone about the press conference and all the wonderful things that had come with it. Gabriel, being his usual modest self, was happy but a little shy with all the attention. That's when Ellen chose to step in, as she often did, with her sharp tongue and relentless need for the spotlight. My niece, who had always found a way to make everything about her, could not stand that Gabriel was being praised. I had noticed it before how she would somehow twist every conversation back to herself when the focus wasn't on her. She would interrupt stories, make random comments, or perform some ridiculous stunt, just so she could hear herself talk. But that day, with Gabriel shining, Ellen couldn't hold back. She looked straight at him, her voice dripping with sarcasm, and said, "You know, you're adopted, right?" The room fell silent, and for a moment, I thought I had misheard her. Gabriel froze, his face a mixture of confusion and hurt. I saw his little eyes flicker toward me, as if searching for some kind of reassurance. I could feel the blood drain from my face, my heart pounding in my chest. I had never prepared for this moment. We hadn't even told Gabriel yet, and now Ellen had thrown it into the open like a bomb. My mind raced. How could she be so cruel, so thoughtless? I stood up, the anger rising in me like a tidal wave. Without thinking, I slapped Ellen across the face. The sound echoed through the room, and I could feel everyone's eyes on me. Ellen's mouth hung open, shocked by my reaction. For a second, she seemed to not know what to do with herself. Then, she stormed off, muttering something under her breath. I turned to Gabriel, my heart breaking for him. I kneeled in front of him, brushing his hair from his forehead, trying to comfort him with all the love I could pour into a touch. "Gabriel, sweetheart, you are loved," I whispered, my voice shaking. "You are so loved, and nothing will ever change that." The rest of the family was in stunned silence, no one quite sure what to say. My sister-in-law, Ellen's mother, was the first to speak, but her words didn't bring any comfort. She tried to apologize for Ellen's behavior, but I could tell she was more concerned about how my slap might affect her daughter than the hurt Ellen had caused. I, my husband, and Gabriel went out first. We told Gabriel the whole truth about how I wasn't able to give birth, so we planned on adopting a child. We never regretted that we chose him, our beloved child who grew up to be such a kind and loving person. Fortunately, Gabriel took this maturely. He did not get angry at us for hiding the truth. He was just relieved that these words finally came out of our mouths. It is truly surprising for him to say that, knowing that he is just 8 years old. We are really proud of him. We approached Ellen and my sister-in-law days later just to clear things up. I apologized to Ellen for slapping her. She accepted the apology and they left. However, things became awkward for us, and we were not able to restore our past relationship with them, though. I can't say that we were very close in the first place.
My dad stopped paying for my college to buy my twin sister a car. My twin sister, Grace, has always been the smartest child in the family. She was always the top student and never failed any class. On the other hand, I am the black sheep of the family. I barely pass any subjects, and whenever I do, my twin sister always gets the spotlight. My parents never really cares about me, but I tried really hard to make them proud. But I guess it's just not enough. When we reached college, my sister and I went into our separate colleges. She was accepted in a top-tier university, far away from home, while I went into a state college, because I didn't pass any. The first year was great for me. No one compared me with my sister and I made many friends. Also, I only see my parents once in a while, so I wasn't scolded like I used to. My sister would also visit my family, but we don't really go together. But one day I went to my parents just for a simple visit. During dinner my dad said, "Kyla, your mom and I decided to stop paying for your college. We already have so many bills and I really hope you understand how much we have done for you." I asked him if they would also stop supporting Grace, and they said that they would continue on paying for her college, because she has a huge chance of making it big. I really thought that it was unfair, but I tried to be understanding. After that, I worked in part-time jobs while my sister is already at her second year. One Sunday morning I was in our house cleaning, when someone honked in front of our house. I thought that it was a random visitor, but then I saw my sister getting out of the car. She went to our house happily, and my parents hugged her. I was just standing there, wondering where she got her car from. Grace came up to me and hugged me tightly. She said, "Kyla, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, Dad wouldn't have been able to buy me a car." I stood there confused. I asked what she meant, and she said that she had a hard time traveling around, so she asked Dad to buy her a car. Knowing that he can't afford it, Dad gave up my future just for Grace. I went to my room fuming mad, then I packed my things. At night, I went outside and saw the three of them having dinner. Without me, they didn't even bother to call me. So, I got my baggage and went out. My mom started to call me. "Kyla, come back here. We didn't raise you to be this disrespectful." I had enough. I ignored them and stayed with a friend from college. I told her everything, from my twin sister to the car. She allowed me to stay at her place at the time being, and I helped her with her chores. I also gave her some monetary contribution from the salary that I got from my part-time jobs. It was not that big, but I did one part-time job to another, so it's quite a lot. While I had nothing to do, I started planning business ventures. I may not be as smart as my sister, but I am good at other things. From the money that I have saved, I made customized candles and keychains. I advertised it all over social media. At first, I only had a few orders, but then one of my videos blew up and several orders started popping up. During this time, I never received a call from my family. I was able to have enough money to move out of my friend's house. I gave her a gift and some money as a thank you for everything, and I went on to live in an apartment. Around 3 years later, I finally became a millionaire and I was able to build my business completely. One day, I was interviewed in a television program about my business. It felt so surreal as I happily shared my story. The next day, I was bombarded with text messages and phone calls from my family. My family who has never called me since the day I left home. I answered my dad's call. He said, "Kyla, what have you been doing all this time? Why do you have a car? Can we visit you?" I replied saying, "Dad, you have never called me ever since I left. Why did you decide to call me now?" Then Mum told me how they missed me so much and how they needed money to pay the bills. I realized that they never really missed me. They only wanted my money. I told them that they should just ask Grace to help them. I mean, they supported her and everything, so why should I be the one to pay the bills? I found out that Grace dropped out after she was caught cheating in her test. Apparently, that test was a big deal, so the professor dropped her out of class. Grace just gave up on college and worked for minimum wage. I felt a little pity on them, so I gave them a few $100s. They were so grateful. However, a few days later, they asked for more and I refused because I already gave them quite a lot. They were so furious and told me that I was so ungrateful even after they cared for me for years. At that point, I just lost it. I broke all contact with them and met few people along the way. These people helped me understand the true meaning of family.
My classmate sabotaged my exam answers so that he can be the top student. I, 18, have always been the top student in my high school. I am a consistent honor student since I was a kid and I don't want to break any expectation that people have for me. So I continued to study hard and have the highest ranking. I am now a graduating student and I plan to remain as the top student. For the first quarter, I successfully earned a high grade. However, my other classmate, let's call him Ryan, also had a high average. I was higher by only 0.1 point. Things took its turn for the worse when it was the second quarter. We did our quarterly exams like we used to and I consistently aced them. However, when our physics teacher gave back our exam results, I was left speechless and utterly shocked. I scored 32 out of 50. I was extremely confused because, when I was answering it, it was considerably easy. It was weird for me to have this score. But then, I noticed something peculiar. When I looked at my exam, there were traces of erasure as if someone erased an answer and changed it to another. Those were definitely not me. The answers were barely erased as if whoever did it was in a hurry. Then, our teacher distributed the exam questions, so that we can check if we had any corrections whatsoever. When we reached number 29, this was the easiest questions that I answered in my exam. But when I looked at my answer sheet, it was changed. That was when I stood up and rushed over to my teacher. I said, "Ms. Johnson, I would not come to you if I know that my answers are wrong. But I am 100% sure that somebody changed my answers. This is sabotage." So, Ms. Johnson told the whole class to write the answers again. She and I cross-checked each penmanship to see which one was similar to my manipulated answers. Just then, Ms. Johnson said, "Look at this, Dylan. The handwriting is the same." When I went to check, it was literally the exact writing style as the one with the faked answers. I checked the name, and I was shocked when it was Ryan's. How could he do this? I know that he wants to be the top placer, but I didn't think that he would stoop this low as to changing my answers. Come to think of it, there have been several times that my outputs and activities suddenly went missing. I always passed them with the others, but teachers would ask me why my output is missing. News about this revelation spread in the whole school, and that was when my classmates told me that they even saw Ryan cheating in exams and manipulating his answers to get a higher score. I thought that Ryan would receive a punishment of some sort, but after a few weeks, nothing has happened. I went to my advisor, Mr. Adams, and asked him if they had already done any action after what Ryan has done, or if they simply told him that they already knew about his sabotage and cheating cases. He told me that there was nothing to worry about, and that I should just let him be. That was when I realized that all of this is hopeless. I shouldn't have waited for them to take action, because all they care about is the school's reputation. I honestly have no idea what to do.